Is this the end of an era at St. James's Park? Or the beginning of something completely different? After months of speculation, contract talks, and whispers in the corridors of power, the news we've all been dreading has finally dropped like a bombshell across Tyneside. The iconic number 9 shirt is hanging empty, and the Gallowgate End has lost one of its most beloved sons. We might be witnessing the closing of one of the most emotional chapters in recent Newcastle history. A striker who gave everything for the black and white stripes, who embodied the fighting spirit of the Toon Army, has just bid his final farewell. Let's dive into what's really behind Callum Wilson's departure and what this means for Eddie Howe's master plan. Greeting, what's up, Toon Army? Welcome back to NUFC Quick News, your go-to source for everything Newcastle United. The passion, the pride, and the black and white fight. I'm absolutely gutted to be bringing you this news today, but we need to talk about what's just happened at St. James Park. Are you ready for this emotional roller coaster? Because what I'm about to tell you will change everything about how we see our attacking future. Make sure you stick around until the end, because I've got some exclusive insights about what Eddie Howe's really thinking right now. The departure confirmed. It's official, Toon Army. Callum Wilson has left Newcastle United after 5 incredible seasons in the black and white stripes. The club confirmed today that our number 9, our warrior, our Gallowgate hero, will not be returning to Benton for pre-season preparations. This isn't just any departure. This is the end of a love story that began in 2020 when we desperately needed someone to believe in us again. Wilson's farewell message hit me right in the feels, and I know it's done the same to every single one of you. To all you Magpies, it's time to say goodbye after an unbelievable few years at the Toon. Those words carry the weight of 130 games, 49 goals, 11 assists, and countless memories that will echo around St. James's Park forever. But here's what's really breaking my heart. Wilson says he's so proud to have worn the iconic number 9 shirt and to have added a little more history to it. Think about that for a second. The number 9 shirt at Newcastle United isn't just a jersey. It's a legacy. From Jackie Milburn to Alan Shearer, from Andy Cole to Les Ferdinand. And now Callum Wilson has added his name to that legendary list. The emotional farewell. What gets me most about Wilson's statement is how he talks about scoring at the Gallowgate End really is as special as they say. Can you imagine what that must have felt like? Standing there, 52,000 voices roaring your name, knowing you've just given everything for the club and the fans who've adopted you as one of their own. Do you remember his crucial goals during our Champions League push? Those moments when he stepped up when we needed him most? Wilson wasn't just a striker for Newcastle. He was a symbol of our resurrection, our journey from the championship fears to European nights. The fact that he mentioned standing strong through the highs and some lows to help the club experience new heights tells you everything about his character. This man lived and breathed Newcastle United, and now he's walking away because the club couldn't offer him what he deserved. Here's where it gets really interesting, and this is where you need to pay attention because the mainstream media isn't telling you the full story. Eddie Howe was desperate to keep Wilson. Desperate. The gaffer put an incentivized deal on the table. Not just any deal, but one specifically designed to reward Wilson for his contributions while managing his injury concerns. But Wilson rejected it. Not once, but multiple times. Sources close to the negotiations tell me that Wilson had other options on the table. And we're not just talking about lower-level clubs looking for a quick fix. We're talking about Premier League interest and Major League Soccer opportunities that could offer him everything Newcastle couldn't. Think about this from Wilson's perspective. He's 33 years old, he struggled with back and hamstring injuries, and he managed only 18 Premier League appearances last season. The man knows his body better than anyone, and he knows he needs the right environment to maximize whatever time he has left at the top level. Eddie Howe's reaction to this departure tells us everything about how much Wilson meant to this project. After the Everton game, Howe said he wanted an agreement reached, describing Wilson as someone who epitomizes the spirit that's got us to where we are. That's not just manager speak. That's genuine admiration for a player who bought into the vision from day one. But here's what's really fascinating. Howe also praised Wilson as just an incredible footballer for Newcastle, who has been vital to everything they've achieved. When your manager is publicly fighting to keep you, publicly praising your contribution, and publicly stating that you epitomize the club's spirit, your departure becomes about more than just contracts and money. Are you starting to see the bigger picture here? This isn't just about losing a striker. This is about losing a leader, a mentor, and a symbol of what Newcastle United represents in the modern era. Let's talk about what Wilson actually achieved in a Newcastle shirt, because these numbers will blow your mind. 49 goals and 130 appearances across all competitions. That's nearly a goal every 2. 7 games for a striker who was often playing through pain, often carrying the entire attacking burden on his shoulders. 11 assists on top of those goals means Wilson was directly involved in 60 goals during his Newcastle career. 60. That's more than a goal contribution every other game for a player who arrived when we were fighting relegation battles and left as we were establishing ourselves as a European force. But statistics don't tell the whole story. Wilson's impact went beyond goals and assists. He was the striker who gave Anthony Gordon the freedom to roam, who created space for Miguel Almiron to thrive, who showed Alexander Isak what it meant to wear the Newcastle shirt with pride. What does Wilson's departure mean for Newcastle United's immediate future? This is the question that's keeping Eddie Howe awake at night, and it should be keeping all of us thinking about what comes next. Wilson wasn't just a number 9. He was the number 9. He understood the weight of that shirt, the expectation, the pressure and the privilege of leading the line for one of England's most passionate football clubs. Finding someone who can fill that void isn't just about finding goals. It's about finding someone who gets what Newcastle United is all about. The timing of this departure is particularly brutal. We're entering a season where European competition demands squad depth, where the Premier League is more competitive than ever, and where every goal could be the difference between success and disappointment. So where does this leave us, Toon Army? Wilson's departure opens up a massive hole in our attacking options, but it also creates an opportunity for Eddie Howe to reshape this team in his own image. Alexander Isak now becomes the undisputed number 1 striker. But we need depth, we need options, and we need someone who can carry the burden when injuries inevitably strike. The transfer window is still open, and you can bet your bottom dollar that Eddie Howe and the recruitment team are working overtime to find Wilson's replacement. But here's the thing. You can't replace Callum Wilson's impact, his leadership, his understanding of what it means to be Newcastle United. You can only hope to find someone who can create their own legacy in the black and white stripes. Wilson's departure also sends a message to the rest of the squad. It shows that Newcastle United is evolving. That sentiment alone won't keep you at the club, and that everyone needs to prove their worth in this new era of ambition and expectation. Let me read you Wilson's closing words again because they deserve to be heard. All good things come to an end, but there's no doubt Newcastle United will always have a place in mine and my family's hearts. Thank you for the memories. Those aren't just words. They're a love letter to everyone who believed in him, everyone who sang his name, everyone who celebrated his goals like they were their own. Wilson came to Newcastle as a proven Premier League striker, but he's leaving as a Newcastle United legend. Think about what he's given us. The goals that kept us up, the performances that got us into Europe, the leadership that helped transform a group of players into a team that could compete with anyone. Wilson didn't just play for Newcastle, he lived for Newcastle. And that's why this departure hurts so much. Wilson's departure is part of a bigger story about Newcastle United's evolution. We're no longer the club that keeps players out of loyalty or sentiment. We're a club that makes hard decisions, that plans for the future, that sometimes has to let legends walk away to make room for the next chapter. This is what ambition looks like, Toon Army. It's not always pretty, it's not always popular, but it's necessary if we want to compete at the highest level. Wilson's departure clears the way for new signings, new strategies, and new dreams. But it also reminds us that football is ultimately about people, about relationships, about the bond between a player and the fans who support them. Wilson gave us everything he had, and now he's moving on to the next chapter of his career with our blessing and our gratitude. As I wrap up this emotional journey through Callum Wilson's departure, I want you to remember something important. This isn't just an ending, it's also a beginning. Wilson's legacy at Newcastle United is secure. His place in our hearts is guaranteed, and his impact on this club will be felt for years to come. The number 9 shirt will be filled again. The Gallowgate end will have new heroes to celebrate, and Newcastle United will continue to grow and evolve. But we'll never forget what Callum Wilson gave us during those 5 incredible seasons. To Callum Wilson, wherever your journey takes you next, thank you for the memories, thank you for the goals, and thank you for showing us what it means to fight for the badge. You came to Newcastle as a signing, but you're leaving as family. And that's the story of Callum Wilson's departure from Newcastle United Toon Army. Smash that like button if you're grateful for everything CW9 gave us during his time in the black and white stripes. And hit subscribe to never miss an update about our beloved Magpies. What are your favorite Callum Wilson memories? Drop them in the comments below because I want to hear about the moments that made you fall in love with our departing number 9. And make sure you're ready for what comes next because this transfer window is about to get very interesting. Until next time, stay proud, stay loud, and always keep the faith. Away the lads.